Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Offstage Passport Show, the podcast interview show where we go behind the scenes, offstage with our all-access passport in hand, and get a glimpse into the lives of artists from all around the world. My name is Nicholas Rodriguez, and it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the show and to introduce our very first guest on this show. Hailing from Minneapolis, Minnesota, our first guest is a graduate of North Central University, where he was a drummer for the university's elite touring group, One Accord. With over 2 million views on YouTube, he is known for his entertaining light-up drum covers, but most importantly, he has a distinct title as the former drummer of the band Owl City. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Matt Gusmer, aka Goose The Drummer. Hey, welcome to the show, Matt.
What's up? After that intro, I'm feeling like a boss, man. It's so generous.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of accolades, and it's really, really cool and interesting to. I want to get to talk about that. Just some little nuggets there that I want to kind of just touch on. But yeah, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you as our first guest and our inaugural guest on the show.
Honored to be here.
Yeah. And well, in the words of Taylor Marshall, I'm jumping in.
Let's go. I love it. I hope he sees this.
Yeah, we'll get to that later on. So let's go back to the beginning. I know you're originally from Green Bay, Wisconsin, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. So how did you get started in music? How old were you? Was this something that happened early on or maybe in the teen years?
Yeah, I had kind of a moment. I guess growing up until I was 10, my parents had just kind of noticed I always was like watching the drummer at shows, at church, like in any scenario. I feel like they're moving the most. They're usually like so engaging to watch. And I was just surrounded in my life by like really good drummers at church. And my dad was so into like going to live concerts and everything. So I got exposed to that, for really young. And so for my 10th birthday, they knew like if I was going to play an instrument, they knew what it would be. So they actually got me a beginner drum kit on my 10th birthday and gifted me with started me on weekly lessons, which from a good friend of my dad, who is an incredible, like seasoned professional and still doing it. And the rest kind of just took off. I remember from being so young that I almost channeled my frustration of not being able to do something for good to get better at drums. Like I would be really frustrated and angry if I wasn't able to do something because I felt like it made me look foolish or like I couldn't. I don't know. It's just kind of embarrassing not being able to do it. So I'd really worked really hard to kind of prevent that. And it was so fun just I guess as little opportunities came and went and grew, like when I was 12, I started playing at church and then started playing at church. Other people who play in bands are at the church and they are like, oh, how cool would it be to have this like little kid play drums with our band, like our cover band, whatever. So I like just started getting all these random gigs and it just kind of like, snowballed into all sorts of different fun opportunities and then pursued it through high school, doing pep band, marching band, show choir band, while continuing to play at church. And then I was playing youth groups on Wednesdays, and then I'd get asked to play on Sundays at church too. So it just became like I was just playing all the time and loving it. It was just really fun and a great way to to take out the stress of a day on the drums, and just
I hear that.
Decompress. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. You mentioned the church. Did you kind of is that where you kind of started off?
Yeah, I would probably say early on, my instructor Steve had and playing at church, like those two things were like the biggest catalyst in me having opportunities to play, and just in my like what influenced me as a drummer, as a musician, as a person in those years, because Steve is just a high integrity man that when it comes to music and work and in general, and he was just so good that it was just so inspiring to be around as a kid, so I'm super thankful for that connection. And then at church, not many 12-year-olds get the opportunity to play for a few hundred people every week or something, so
yeah, that's incredible.
I felt so cool as a little kid, like trying to figure it out. And I wouldn't want to look back and watch many videos from that time because I was starting out, but
So was it like a church that had many satellites? Like they had one central broadcast and then satellite churches, or what type of
Yeah.
church was it?
This church, even the building was so big, like they had even another campus just on the other side of the building too. And then they did grow and end up being like a satellite church kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just thankful for a lot of people believed in me and gave me a chance. Like that's a risk on their part too, looking back, like, and I think some good leadership of giving people a shot and letting them rise to the occasion. Like, I think people really, when they're given a bigger opportunity, they generally work
Yeah.
harder and like really try to make it worth improve themselves kind of thing. And I feel like that's totally what gave me the early passion for it, and then feeling that the value and the fun and the adrenaline of performing or playing and whatever. So that was really fun, and then got to be in my first band at I think 15 or 16 from there, which was once again a connection from church. So it all kind of, the networks and all the people I met all kind of started from the skills I was gaining there and from the people I met there. So
I want to talk about that later on, because I know was it River Valley Church
yep,
is a big part of your story as well.
totally played there for 6 years, and man, they take excellence seriously. They do things so well. It's a well-oiled machine, and that was really fun to be a part of. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. So, we start off at church and we kind of grow into, you had your first, was in your first band at 15. And let's talk a little bit about NCU. It's a
Hmm.
Christian-based university, correct?
Yep. So that was when I turned 18. I graduated high school and it was time for next steps. What am I going to do with my life? Oh my gosh. And it was so clear to me that I know, even still, like music's going to be in my life forever. So in some way or fashion. So I had a bunch of people I knew, including my sister actually went to Minneapolis for school, for next steps in life and whatever. And then I heard some really great things about NCU's music program, and some staff they had brought on. And I toured some different colleges, and it just seemed to be a great fit. And they emphasize community and just making the experience, like, I guess, some of the non-tangible things a university can offer, of even move-in day. Like they just had their details so well, like figured out, where move-in day they had separate people like assigned to helping the students move in and like meeting them, because it's such a vulnerable moment in life where you have no friends, you're starting over in a new city potentially, like you're not going to have your parents to just go back to their house or something. It was just a crazy vulnerable time. So that was a huge part of it for me, is like the community, finding a safe place. But then, man, college was where I really started being um, pushed to the next level, and where I started really taking it serious, of like, okay, I'm spending money on this. I'm gonna make every dollar count. I'm gonna hit the practice rooms like people are suggesting. I gotta like
Yeah.
book a practice room. That was probably the biggest pain of being a drummer, is like finding places to practice and not feeling like a burden to others, like, because it's just the nature of the instruments is so loud. So I pity with every drummer. If you're watching, I'm sorry for what you have to go through. It's worth it.
Yeah. Did you get an assigned room in the practice room, or did you kind of have to lug your instruments around?
Yeah,
Uh,
they had a pretty good system where they had, at the time that I went, which was 2011 to 2015, they had like multiple different practice rooms that already had drum kits in them.
Awesome.
I'd say like three or four. So then you could book a space online and see what's available. But what happened, it was just always a rush to who would get the best times booked first. So then usually it was, for me, it was like I'd almost always rehearse at like 9 to 11 or something at night, like, or I'd get kind of the crappier, like really late times. So
Yeah.
but it worked, and it's actually super fun having it was usually in a classroom or like a large room, and they had a separate music building, which is kind of a cool feeling to have, I don't know, at night in a big room and a drum kit, and it's just you and music. Like
It's
I
the
had a
best
lot
feeling in
of,
the world.
yeah, a lot of like special memories of it, just breakthroughs in my own playing. And I remember that's where I learned a lot of like some more in-depth Latin, like samba rhythms, and bayone foot pattern, and like so many, I guess, monumental moments of me getting better were just like alone in that room figuring it out. So good times.
Yeah, some of the best and worst moments were in practice rooms.
Oh,
you know,
definitely, definitely. So it's that frustration,
yeah,
channeling
because
that frustration for good of like not being able to figure it out. You can channel
yeah,
that.
and spending hours and just kind of resetting the met.
Oh yeah.
I used to have a system. I need to nail it like 10 times in a row before I can move up 5 clicks.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
was just very rewarding.
Totally.
For
Totally.
sure. What was your major there?
Yep. My major was music business. And I actually, my first year, it was music performance. And then after doing that for a year, I was kind of realizing I might not need a degree. Like, I think I just need the skills to do, like, to perform and the connections. So then I really wanted to channel the business aspect. So I adjusted my sophomore year and um, to music business. I wanted to take more business courses. I think an entrepreneur type mind was birthed in me like that sophomore junior year where I was just kind of thinking bigger and realizing that like and I still struggle with this, how drumming is a supportive role almost always. There are cases where it's not, or where I don't know. So combine that where like almost my whole life's work is in drumming. And then now I'm like really wanting control and wanting like to start a business with this or to own something and like grow it, gradually. That was really hard tension for me of like, how can I use my skills where I'm at now to get in a position that is satisfying or the incentives are right. Like I'm really big on I want my incentive to be to do good work. I always want to whatever system or job or thing I'm doing, I want those incentives to be to do good work, to have integrity. So as much as I can set up a system that way. So part of that was like owning a YouTube channel. Then I can, if it fails, it's on me. If it succeeds, it's on me. Teaching lessons were another one. And then gigs and that's kind of the funding of or the founding of Goose the Drummer. Where I was like, okay, I'm going to start this. This is going to be a thing. I'm leaning into it. Goose was my college nickname from Gusmer. My RA had thought it was pronounced Goosemer, which it's not. So you nailed the pronunciation. Way to go.
Awesome. Yeah, I
Yep.
tried to.
Yep. So that was a fun thing to lean into, and people remember the name Goose. It just was a funny like nickname that just stuck, and now it's been over a decade. So it's been really fun to just kind of lean into that and stick on people's mind. Want to be the first person people think of when they think of like drums. Anything. Yeah. Like if we need drums programmed, if we need someone to drum for our gig.
Let's call him Goose. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's give him a call.
So being that top of mind guy, and that seemed to help. Having a nickname as light and funny as it was at the time, and as kind of immature as it felt, I think has been a huge part of being memorable, being top of mind, and like hard to quantify the amount of opportunities, but I know some definitely came from that just being a little bit different and unique.
Yeah, it's very marketable for sure.
Yeah,
and it really kind of just rolls off the tongue. Yeah, Goose the Drummer.
Yeah.
And I kind of always wondered where the origin of Goose came from. So I didn't know if it was early on or, where in your life did it happen, but it's cool.
Yep. Freshman. It was my first day at college. Actually, there were 5 mats on my floor of 20 guys. And the RA is like, this is not going to happen. And everyone's going to be yelling Matt all the time, which was the case. So there were some funny nicknames and some awesome other Mats I got to meet, and it named them like DJ eBay. And like, cause this guy was super into selling stuff on eBay. Like, so it was pretty funny. But it just stuck. And I remember my mom was like, Matthew, you don't need to lean into this. Like you don't have to be Goose if you don't want to. She was just trying to, really protect me, make sure like,
but you kind of viewed that, after kind of thinking about it and kind of owning it, it's like, hey, this is,
yeah, this actually makes sense. I'm memorable. Yeah. And it's kind of funny too, because then no one knows my real name anymore. Like, yeah. So it became a pretty funny thing that, especially when people chant Goose, which is always fun to hear like from stage or whatever, because it sounds like a boo. But
yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah. So looking back, wouldn't change a thing. It's been a fun little thing. I even got it on my iLock here for like Pro Tools and licensing plugins. Got my logo, which is a GTD for Goose the Drummer.
Goose the Drummer.
Yeah, it's fun to
But
lean
that's
into that.
awesome. Yeah. So going into college, we're in college now. Was there an audition process? How was it getting into college?
Yeah. So there was I did an audition for a music scholarship program they had. And then it was more of a standard. I don't think it was an audition process to get into the actual like music program, but they did have your standard like college approval
Yeah.
process. So like, grades, SAT stuff. Um, so I got in, and then once I was in, and I think it was when I was touring the college, I tried out for music scholarship as well, which made going through school a lot easier. The only catch was, and this is a good catch, I think, if you did get the scholarship, which I did get, the music scholarship, you had to be involved in, I believe it was 2 ensembles per semester. So that meant like percussion ensemble, there was like a jazz ensemble, a rhythm ensemble, or some of the touring groups with the school. So NCU, it like really specializes and does that very well, of like worship bands, worship teams, and they have tons of opportunities because almost the whole state and Midwest knows that NCU is like elite in um, providing like excellent musicians and worship leaders and ministers and that whole thing. So got some really fun opportunities to play at chapel, like just for the school because they have daily chapel, and
Awesome.
then also traveling to youth groups, to churches. A lot of people trusted us, and we were given a lot of fun opportunities. So that was really
It's a
fun.
great. It's a very great ministry.
Totally,
Ministering through music is um very fulfilling, and it's great to see lives changing right in front of you.
totally, totally.
And being a vessel, and being part of that movement, it's incredible.
Yep,
And
yep,
so let's talk about, and now that we're on this topic, let's talk about one accord.
yeah.
What is one accord?
Yep. One Accord, ironically, is no more right now. The name has changed to Worship Live. So, with that disclaimer, um, One Accord is, I guess, NCU's like elite kind of touring group that they send out. And it's actually a program for the students in One Accord to like learn, get credits, get recording experience if they don't have already. So basically, it was a year and a half program that is pretty, strict tryouts for and handpicked musicians for it and everything, which was always super intimidating trying out in front of all your peers. It's so, tryouts are so brutal. But basically, year and a half program, the first, it's like a fall, spring, summer, and then fall. And that first fall, you're recording a 5 song. Usually, I don't know what they're doing now. They might be a 10 song, like full album kind of thing. But you're recording an album or a product of some sort of songs that are original, um, and writing them specifically for what you'll use them for. So playing in chapel, playing at churches, for youth groups. So it made the writing a lot more natural. So you can just envision, and you're writing for such a clear purpose. And then spring, start playing in chapel, start assigning roles, who in the band is going to do what, because we're preparing for a summer like full out tour kind of thing. And then summer was straight up, and then I guess spring we're still rehearsing for summer, where we play youth camps like Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, and then church on Sunday, and
Oh, wow.
sometimes even youth groups on those Wednesdays. So it was, you're playing twice a day, every day, literally. It was exhaustingly amazing. It was so fun. So a little different than what most people consider a tour, because it's like youth groups, youth camps. Um, but that was such a great, like, just learning experience, a time to get better and use the skills that you're constantly at college, like practicing, rehearsing, learning, playing, to actually be able to like outwardly play instead of like inwardly get better kind of thing, just
Yeah.
opportunities to perform, per se. And then, that fall, school is back up and rolling. So fall, spring, then the summer tour, then that next fall, we're just playing a ton in chapel, and um, more like, um, Wednesdays and Sundays because school's going on. So now we're like back in classes and playing like, here and there when we can. So it was a ton of youth groups and Sundays, but the amount of skills we learned and the amount of trust they were given to us, opportunities to grow. So we, managed like the finances for that. The only thing we really didn't do was the booking. But everything else, we had a manager, financial manager,
Nice.
merch we were in charge of, like keeping all that straight and ordering more when we needed it. And we were kind of on our own as just a bunch of meddling kids in a van figuring it out. So it was fun.
That sounds like a really, really fun experience, but also a necessary experience for most. And that not many people get that opportunity. Because you get to be hands-on with all of the aspects of the music business, per se. So it sounds like it's a really amazing program that
Absolutely.
they have there at NCU.
Yeah, I think the NCU does this so well of giving people opportunities to shine, to practice, to learn, I think that's usually comes down to the best way to learn. It's just get your hands dirty, do it. Like stop talking about it, stop rehearsing to do it, like just do it kind of thing.
Especially in our industry and in our business, you have to be hands-on.
Yeah.
That's great. I didn't know that about NCU. So thank you for enlightening me.
It's a small school. It's right downtown across from US Bank Stadium. So it's in like metro, blocks away from the skyscrapers. So it's also like a really cool environment too. So
that's awesome. How was it balancing all of that? I know time management is very, very hard, for lack of better words.
Totally. It's always come natural to me. I'm a very like list, calendar, organized person in general. So that was always fine to me. Sometimes the hard part was, just managing schoolwork when you're taking multiple classes. Sometimes all the heavy workload of those classes stack up on the same time period or something. And then especially while traveling too, that made it really hard. So sometimes learning songs on the road when I have like homework too and essays to write and stuff like that. But you can do it, just put your mind to it, look at your day, kind of plan for it and do your best with what you got. So made it through, which I'm very glad. And the other side is so bright after graduating. And it's like, take a deep breath and just
Let's talk about post-graduation. So post-graduation, did you stay with River Valley Church?
I did. Yep. So that was that's a perfect. I'm impressed you observed that, because that basically like 2 months before I graduated, one of my drum instructors at NCU happened to be the like head honch worship director for River Valley Church. His name's Aaron Johnson. So he was already teaching me drums, and smart of him recruiting too, like smart to think like, oh, this guy could make a good fit at, they had a new campus in Chalkby opening, which is just a southern suburb of the Twin Cities. So he kind of gave me the opportunity if I wanted it, and chose to dive in. And after, it was such a learning process. So from there, I was appointed per se to be like the MD, music director, which I know you're probably familiar with, but for anyone not, it's kind of the behind the scenes point person. So there's not too many cooks in the kitchen kind of directing the band, or if there's any decisions to be made in rehearsal of what chord to play, or someone needs to be calling out, like after you're done with a song, getting back into the next song. Like I'm in charge of all the transitions, and especially at River Valley, they'd have like us play behind announcements, or maybe like the greeting time when people are shaking hands and saying hi. Like it's nice to have some live music behind that instead of just
the standard pads or a beat. Yeah.
So that was kind of always a part of it too, which I think was really fun. So I'd come every week with like a vibe planned, which was usually like whatever new fun song I was pumped about in the moment. Like we had even done some Bieber songs and like
nice,
just a chord progression that we could kind of spice up and have fun with. But yeah, all those things. So I'd have a mic and be able to talk to the band while we're playing too, if something needed to be adjusted. And then I ran tracks and prepared those and made cues and would adjust cues, or if someone was forgetting lyrics, I'd add a cue in so it's easier in reminding them as we're playing, or I would just remind them on the mic as we're playing too. So learned so much by doing that of just what a band needs, what a band leader or vocalist is looking for from a drummer. Because I think you can do too much too.
Yeah.
So kind of balancing, like, just do it what's needed and do it well. And
That's a great philosophy to have
yeah,
too. Yeah.
that really led to, and I guess on top of that, piggytailing off that, the nature of being a drummer, especially at church, was the biggest place where I learned to like not overplay, to play what's needed, and serve the song. I would say was the biggest concept that I like is stuck with me forever now. Do whatever the song needs, which sometimes might be nothing. Which is hard for a drummer to just do nothing, or to play just a kick and snare and no hats or no ride cymbal,
or sometimes it's even as simple as like a 4 on the floor.
Yep, 4 on the floor. It feels maybe boring to you, but you serve the song. Like,
yeah,
you as the band are actually serving. It's not people there to see you. Like, you are serving them. So that mindset change really, I think, brought more opportunities, because that's the type of people that other bandmates want to be around. They want to be around servants. They want to be around generous, high integrity people. So that was
awesome.
Probably one of the biggest lessons that I'm thankful for there.
Now, at your campus, did you have a lot of different musicians kind of coming in? Did you have a set band, or?
Yeah, we had
like a rotation.
They try, rotation. I would say they tried it's way easier if you have a set band. Definitely, you can develop, you can grow, you can have patterns and routines much easier. But the nature of a church, people aren't as consistent sometimes with that. So and there's a lot of people that want to play, and you can give more people opportunities to play, and let the young guys hop in there with the big adult service and give them a chance. And that's as big of that was for my story. I'm a huge believer in that. So I'd say probably like 3/4 of the people were the same every week, but then there's always some, maybe a different guitarist this week, maybe a different keys player or something. So it adjusted, but in I think a healthy amount, where it was small enough changes that it wasn't like feeling way different. So consistent.
Did you have like any mentors, or I know you mentioned Aaron, right? Aaron Johnson. Yep. I know you mentioned him, but was there other mentors or best friends or friendships that developed out of the church scene?
Definitely. Yeah, I would say Aaron was probably the biggest, because he was my drum instructor like through most of college. He gave me the opportunity, and he's just my friend, and he's cool. So that helps. And he had basically launched me through like Ableton and got me into Ableton and all that. I did also at the time, right out of college, have a great friend named Luke Hundeby, who ended up being, I had 2 best men in my wedding, but he was one of my best mans, I'll say. And he's also a worship leader. He's a fantastic musician, producer, mixer. Like, he got me really into a lot of that stuff and the post-production stuff, which made me a much better musician. And I'd say I took a lot from him in like hard skills and soft skills of the subtlety of leading worship and being in a band, and especially mixing and production stuff. And I guess to tie this back in, he was in my One Accord team. So that worship team, we toured and everything. So I grew so close with him, and we got really tight, and having a guy like him that can do so many things really brought so much to the team. So he was, and then he was my roommate. So I lived with him for 3 years or so out of college, and that I think had so much great influence on me. And he's just fun. We like all the same stuff.
That's awesome.
Just fun.
Yeah, it's like, I love college in the sense that it's a great networking tool. I mean, you're definitely growing your skills, but as far as networking too, some of your best friends for your entire life are made in the college.
Completely agree.
World. So earlier you mentioned Ableton, and I know you talk about Ableton. You have a free course, and you have courses teaching people about Ableton. First of all, let's talk about Ableton to people who may not know what Ableton is.
Yep. Um, you're getting me started, man. I love Ableton. So Ableton Live it's essentially a music software that can virtually do anything with audio. It's similar to the other big ones are like Logic, Pro Tools, I guess FL Studio, Fruity Loops, um, and or Cubase. The GarageBand is a version, I guess, in a way, but um, yeah, it can basically do anything with audio, which makes it so fun and useful for, I mean, making videos, for song production, for mixing, uh, drum cover, for anything where audio is involved. It just uh, really unlocks the possibilities. And I especially found it in Ableton's niche, I would say, especially because they're called Ableton Live, is for live tracks. So they have a um, view called Session View that's just kind of groundbreaking. I guess it's older now since it's been out for a while, but they just have a way of running tracks live that no other digital audio workstation or DAW has. And that's what got me started into it. And then I realized I could produce music through it too. I'm like, oh my gosh, this can be my one software that I know really well
Yeah,
and take care of anything audio for me. So,
it really is like an
yeah.
all-in-one doll. How did Ableton launch a career? I know you talk about it.
Yeah. So when in 2015, when I graduated, that was basically a requirement for the position I was appointed for at River Valley for music directing. It was like running tracks. You got to run Ableton. Like someone's got to do it, and we want to hire a worship leader and a drummer are like the most important roles in setting up a band, essentially for a church setup, or that's how they ran it at least. And I totally agree that having a really strong vocalist, worship leader, ideally they'd play an instrument, and then a strong drummer who can direct a band and run tracks, like that takes care of a ton of potential mishaps that could otherwise happen. And just the way music has been running, I am there's some people on the purist side that think click and guides and whatever are get in the way of music, and I agree sometimes they do, and sometimes they're used in ways they shouldn't be, or maybe used too much of it as a crutch. But I just love thinking of it. It's another tool that can make your life easier. Use it when it's applicable or when it can help, or and if you're programming lights, now be playing to a perfect grid when you know exactly timed out, like when everything's going to happen, super useful. Let's use it, and then tracks, adding crazy strings. It's not practical to have an orchestra, but you can sound like it if you play to click. So that became, I think, as a drummer that can also run tracks. Now I'm the top of people's list, especially in 2015, like, and on. That just unlocked the possibilities, and it was a pain to learn. I had to spend money on learning it and on the actual software itself and the gear to run it, like an interface and cables and building a rack and all that. But that really just launched me. And then living with Luke, he's the one who got me into like production and kind of opened my mind to I'd watch him produce his own stuff. And I was realizing Ableton can do all these things. He was using Pro Tools. And then I began to make my own music for fun. And then people heard that and wanted me to make a demo for them. And then they're like, okay, let's actually do a full album. And then it just kind of launched, and I got into all this post-production. And just, this was all in Ableton because I just was fast at it and loved it and just intuitive. So I think don't be afraid to use whatever digital audio station is intuitive to you too, because I learned Pro Tools in college, and it works. But for me personally, it didn't work with my brain and like how I understood things, and Ableton really like made sense to me. So nothing against Pro Tools. It's just for me. I love Ableton, and they both, I have great strengths, and I'm jealous of Pro Tools having Beat Detective for editing and rhythm quantization and whatnot. Like I wish Ableton had something as good as that.
For some applications,
they all have their pros.
Yeah, for some applications, Pro Tools, Logic, they work better than Ableton, but Ableton, does live very, very well.
Totally. Yeah, I think almost everyone is on the same page as Ableton being kind of the leading industry standard for live tracks. I don't know of anyone who would disagree, but if you do, hit me up. Let's talk about it. I'm open to what you got. If not.
Yeah. How important is it to have that skill as an instrumentalist? Because most people, they just want to play their instruments, but how important is it to stack on your skill set with having a skill like running Ableton?
I think would you, if you're the person hiring a drummer, would you rather have a drummer that just plays drums or a drummer that can also run tracks and play drums? I think it basically comes down to that. Like you can, the more you do as a drummer, you're taking the burden off of others, which is valuable. And I kind of found out too, like almost always the person running tracks is getting paid. It's work. It's file storage, organization. It's, and if you want to maximize, if you want to maximize your hourly, your time, your pay, your, the experience for others, I think it's a no-brainer investment to make of the time. And now there's so many resources. And that's why I saw such a need for it that I made a course myself that I'm like, oh my gosh, all my drum students are asking me about this. Like, I just want something I can give that gives the general, that gets them started basically, and then has a support line too, because things come up. But with any of the big softwares, it's so searchable. YouTube University. Yeah. I'm a huge.
Yeah, I'm a graduate of YouTube US myself. So.
Oh yeah. Big fan.
Yeah. So go play buttons. So.
Oh yeah.
Do you feel that being in the contemporary Christian music scene prepped you for your role with Owl City?
Totally. Yeah. The back to like the networking. And I guess I can go into like how I landed the gig.
Yeah, let's talk about
that. It came straight up. So like my experience at church somewhat led me to NCU, which somewhat led me to Owl City. So the way I got the gig was, so I graduated in 2015. Then for 3 years, I just played at church, taught drum lessons, and gigged. Like that was life. I was literally cruising Craigslist for people looking for drummers. Like I was taking every gig that came my way and looking for them and like pursuing them. And a result of one of those gigs, this one actually was a connection from NCU from a good friend of mine named Michelle Stevens. And she was going under the artist named Mish. Now she goes under Luna and asked me to play in Brainerd. And that's a northern Minnesota city, and ended up playing that gig and met this guitarist there named Cody Johnson. And we just like hit it off. It's fun when you're a musician and you go play a gig and just get thrown in with other musicians and you don't know what to expect or what they're going to be like or anything or how good they're going to be, whatever. Cody was ripping, man. He was so good and so funny to hang around, like just a good hang. He was awesome. So we ended up just like becoming really good friends, followed each other on Instagram, like stayed in touch and whatever. And turns out we both had YouTube channels. We were both around like the 10,000 subscribers at the time. So we were just like bonded over all these little things. And he was actually the one asked to be a part of Owl City for the cinematic tour. And he thought of me being a good fit just based off that one experience we had at that gig and staying in touch, and that he enjoyed hanging around me, I guess. So awesome. He had suggested me and he put me on their map. And then a huge part of it too was having I call it my resume, was my YouTube channel. So he referred them my YouTube channel. And then that was something at Adam Young, even when we first met, had said like, no need to audition or anything. I've seen enough from your YouTube basically. So, which I had like tons of drum cams from playing at church. I had tons of drum covers. Like, I think that people don't take that serious enough sometimes, of like what you post is for musicians, like your Instagram, your YouTube is what gets you hired in many cases. So
yeah, it is like you said, your resume. It's a digital resume.
Yep,
for sure. You're documenting your skills and documenting just who you are as an artist and a musician, or whatever your avenue is. Definitely is a great tool. Yep. So now we're at Owl City, and Cody wasn't actually in my notes, and I was hoping that you would mention him. So that's cool to hear that how that happened. What was pre-production like? What was prepping for Owl City in the tour and your
Yeah.
approach to learning Owl City? Because my understanding, Adam Young does pretty much everything in studio. How
Hmm.
was it learning the songs and
Yep. It
coming into
was
that?
it was fascinating. And I don't think I've still to this day experienced anyone that prepares more than Adam Young and to such an excellent standard. And there were things I learned that I never thought about. Um, like one being, or here's a few little tricks he did, even in just his session. So first of all, it was a 70-minute set, space bar, and we're along for the ride for tracks. So literally, that was one of my first times ever doing that, like a pre-timed out show. Which at first I was kind of thinking, man, that leaves like no opportunity to like interact and whatever. But he had built those in to the show,
Nice.
so it was like planned, and this was a thing for church too, having planned
Yes.
spontaneous moments to so that way it made it a lot more practical for lighting and when venues have like strong deadlines that you need to be out or a safety thing, like they need people out by 10 or if, just reservations and whatnot, it's a really respectful thing you can do to like honor your timelines, honor the venue. So when you have 34 shows on a tour or something, it makes sense, especially to really be tight on your timeline. So that was one thing that kind of shocked me at first. And then the other was like lyric cues. Just his use of cues was so strategic. And when we rehearsed, the rehearsal process was about 9 months long or so. And it started like we do like a weekend, I don't know, 2 or 3 days, and we just like sleep over or whatever. And then, um, rehearse at night and then sleep, rehearse in the morning. It was a fun little like, uh, weekend hangout kind of thing. And then it was probably like once a month. We were all kind of like after the first rehearsal, like, oh, we're already, I don't know, 90% there after the first rehearsal. So that
Wow.
says a lot about everything he sent us up to that point. He sent us the Logic sessions, so like every stem we have availability to like preview whatever so we can learn and really hear exactly what we need to hear to prepare well. And then also like the sessions for the specific live arrangements, and then even the like drum breakdowns in cinematic tour and whatever he programmed so
Oh,
I could
nice.
learn them exactly what like, so he set me up for success, gave me
That's awesome.
exactly what he wants, and then also gave me the moments and specified like here, be open to what you want to do there, kind of thing. Like, so there were some moments for, my own fills, my own creativity. And then as for like drum sampling, that was my biggest question of how do you want me to use your exact samples? Do you want me to double them? And he had wanted for that tour for me to just double everything that's in the track and let's equip the sound guy to mix how he wants.
Yeah.
So I basically ended up doubling all the main samples that I thought would be necessary, and then the rest was in the track. So the sound guy, it just equipped him to do his thing well. But
You know,
um, yeah, it was a blast. So I mean, anything you can think of that you would need to prepare. I had full stems, I had the live arrangements, I had exactly what to play during the added moments that weren't songs, like drum breakdowns, drum breaks, and stuff like that. And then he would add layers of clicks during solos. That was something I'd never seen before that I thought was
wow.
interesting. So if he has a key solo or something, like the adrenaline of the moment and everyone's screaming and cheering, it's so hard to hear sometimes with in-ears when, I mean, people screaming is crazy loud. So layering in another like really loud, like ching, 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 your ears are just being blown off, but
Yeah, I know
you
he goes
can
to
hear it.
a couple of guitar solos like in Fiji Water,
Yep.
so
Yep. I'm pretty
that's
sure that was one of them. Yep. So there was just so much strategy and thought and experience. That was clearly a result of probably in the past he wasn't able to hear something, so
yeah.
he adjusted and used that experience. And then the cues. So during rehearsals, if we'd make any mistakes, um, like rehearsals were almost for us to find our own inadequacies and where we needed help or a reminder. So we didn't need to use like Cody and I both came prepared with like charts for rehearsal. And then the goal was the more we play this to not need the charts. Um, and then that was where we'd start looking away and try to go through the whole set without, and we'd forget a few things. So we'd just say like, can we add a cue there or whatever? And I remember one of the biggest ones for me was like All My Friends has all these moments where the song goes, yeah. And there's this big crowd thing like that. There's like, it does it like 4 or 5 times, and some of them are 1 bar, some of them are 2 bars, some of them are 1 bar. Like it keeps switching. So that was one thing I like wanted in the cues, for example, where the way the counting is, it lets you know. So it'd go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So I'd know that's going to be a 2 bar. But if it went 1, 2, 3, 4, I know it's going to be a 1 bar. Like it was just obvious little things. I think preventative action is the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just really strategic. And then we're talking everything automated, guitar changes, my sample pad. That was something we figured out in rehearsal to just automate the MIDI changes. So I never had to actually change pads. Like the sounds would change for me. So all I'd have to memorize is which like pads to hit and obviously what to play on them. But we tried to, anything that could be taken care of was totally worth it to do, because we're going to be doing this 34 times. Like,
Yeah.
you just want to save every bit of time and thought, like mental space.
And it helps with consistency as well.
Yep. And with all that done, all that prep done, you can just enjoy the shows more. You're not thinking as hard. You can just like enjoy it and focus more on being there with the crowd, interacting, like having fun, smiling, enjoying it is so fun.
Yeah, it seems like a band like Owl City, it's very intricate with a lot of electronic, elements to it.
Yeah.
I was looking at his setup with the cinematic tour, and he has his own pads, glockenspiel, and keys, and he's very, very busy himself. So
oh yeah,
I was wondering how all of that was on, if it was automated, was it through Ableton as well?
Yeah. Oh yeah, through Ableton. And I believe he uses Logic for production, but people use Ableton for live. It's so good. It can do like everything. And yeah, like the looping was automated, and you'd have like count-ins like tambourine, 1, 2, 3, 4, and even just like smart little count-ins or guide cues that are like telling you the next song, or a lot of them were just like, after the tambourine cue would be like, go to stage left to grab guitar, like stuff like that. Cause there's certain timing things that you need to hit. And there's, it was even at the beginning of the session. I remember when we hit spacebar and start is like, make sure there's like an arrangement view, like orange arrow or automation, enabler, like making sure the automation is enabled, because if it's not, like all these changes won't happen. So like even just adding in cues to make sure that like just all preventative action was like elitely done so well that I learned so much of that and was able to now I use a ton of those just little tricks for making any future performance easier for me, but now also easier for vocalists, for band members I'm playing with, because like the cues are going to be on point. And I can add lyric cues, and just like that creativity in the preparation was so much.
So what was it like, learning with Adam? Were you able to collaborate a lot of stuff, or was it just like more, here's the layout, here's the session, we kind of have to go more of that guide?
Yeah, I'd say like? Probably 70-30, maybe. Awesome. Like 70% like laid out, here it is. And he was always open in such a healthy way, I think, to suggestions or thoughts if we wanted to change something or had a suggestion for the arrangement. And we'd always just work together to find the best solution of like what part to play. Generally solos were roughly planned. It's fine to change a little bit and whatever. But yeah, as for like, especially I felt very trusted and equipped to, play what I wanted to play. He was very open with like, here's the tracks, here's all the stems, like good luck kind of thing, Do what you think is best. I trust you, kind of thing. And I think that's
That's
a great
awesome.
way to lead. Yeah. So and most of it is pretty straightforward. If there's a kick, hat, snare, groove, like you can pretty much match it. But there were a lot of decisions to be made, especially with how electronic these songs are and the the way he programs hi-hats. It's like there's no way I'm going to be able to match this. They're not always like patterns, like they're just different all the time, and like these crazy 30-second notes all over the place.
There's so much ear candy behind his
Yep.
songs.
Yep.
Were you a fan of Owl City before
Oh,
landing the
totally.
gig?
Yep. I grew up listening to like Reliant K,
Nice.
MXPX, Super
Yes.
Chick, Newsboys, and Owl City. So this, and then we had Matt Thiessen from Reliant K on the tour as well, like opening. So that was super special and fun to hang out with him.
Yeah. Let's kind of talk about that a little bit. What was it like? Well, I'm seeing my notes right now. What was your favorite song to play?
All my friends. It was the encore. Well,
Yeah.
or Fiji Water because the ripping guitar solo,
Yeah.
and I love songs that have a little bit of swing to them. And that song, like, it's got a little bit of swing to it,
Yeah.
and it's just super fun to play. And it felt like I think I really enjoyed the songs that were easier to play. That I just was hardly thinking about the music and just kind of like dancing, doing my own thing behind the drums. That's probably the most fun. And the Fiji Water, if you haven't seen it, check it out on you. I got a video up,
Yeah.
whatever.
I'll post it up.
The drum cam compilation of
Yeah.
all the different venues. But yeah, just a surprised ripping guitar solo that Adam rips at the end of that one that he added only live, and it was so fun. But
Well,
all my
I like.
friends was the encore, and that he had Matt Thiessen like hop back on stage at the end, like it was just a blast. And that song that's the
Yeah.
yeah song.
Yeah.
It's just a super like community friendly, fun celebration song, which is like such a fun way to end a show. So that was always really special.
Was there any like horror stories, technical malfunctions, or anything that happened memorable to you?
Yeah, there were a few moments. Yeah, I mean, there were a few like security scares of just like people hanging around when and where they shouldn't be, which is just scary for everyone. Don't do that, you know.
Yeah.
And then there were some I can only think of like two times. One of the times his guitar was off at the beginning of the show, and it was just like, oh no, like his first moment like playing, and it was just an automation like issue, and we had a guy specifically for that was right on top of it. He got it fixed and up and rolling. But I mean, that's the nature of the technical issues that like there was that, and then one other time one of the either yeah we had a redundant setup, so there's two laptops hooked up to the machine, so if one gets out of sync it automatically switches to the other, and that did happen one show, which was terrifying because you hear a little skip in the click and you're like are praying that you're on the right click, that it didn't like error towards an early click or a late click, whatever. You're just praying you're still on the right one, and we were, and it was good.
That's
And
awesome.
even if we weren't, there's enough count-ins and stuff that we can usually like,
Just kind of get back on track.
yeah, power through, either finish a song and then get back on track, or like, but I think maybe only once during Not All Heroes Wear Capes, there was like we just had to play an instrumental all the way through like a verse by accident or something, like someone forgot to come in or something. And then the one time his guitar wasn't on. I mean, and this is over 34 shows. We're talking
Yeah.
two
That just
little
kind of shows the amount of work that goes into the prep to where you have all of these redundancies, with a show as intricate as Owl City and technically challenging as Owl City, to only have two memorable moments like that, over a span of 34 shows, like that says a lot about the system.
For sure. I'd have my own moments too. Like my biggest pet peeve with myself is like missing a rim shot. Like if you don't get that perfect angle, like you just
Yeah.
get a rim click instead of a rim shot. So it's supposed to be a really strong snare and it's just a little click. It's like, that's embarrassing. And Cody and I look at each other and just laugh, and he'd have little moments too, I guess, like here and there, but they're so rare. It really was a lot of prep and rehearsal. And it's a way to honor the people you're working with too, to
Yeah.
just prep as much as you need to. And
So
there were moments that maybe we were over prepared and then your mind is just thinking too much about stuff like that. I think it's good to take a break. And we learned a lot about that too, of not like over preparing in a day, or like don't run the set like 20 times in a day. Like sometimes that can actually just like make you overthink everything and you're just brain fried.
yeah.
So being like healthy and treating your body well too, like with food and rest and all that, I think was important.
Um, what were some of your favorite moments on tour? Like favorite cities and
Yeah. Oh man. I could talk about this forever. There's so many. Um, so I'll just start listing some of my favorite moments. The Boston venue, um, was so fun. It was a really shallow venue, so everyone felt so close. It was the closest like it ever felt, and it was wide. So everyone's like close. And I had my dad was there and I had some extended family there, and it was just so fun to see them experience that. And then that venue just felt so special. The crowd there, I don't know what it was, but maybe it was the closeness, and the people, the fans were just so fun and smiling and enjoying it, which just like snowballs, the more fun they're having, the more fun you're having, the more like, and it
yeah,
just
you're
keeps
just feeding off
stacking on each other. Yeah.
yeah, the
So that was
energy.
like just a magical experience. And it like wasn't the biggest venue. It wasn't, I don't know. It was just, that one just kind of surprised me as like, what a blast. Chicago House of Blues was another. That was just a dream venue I had wanted to always play, like the gold mezzanines and balconies. It's just gorgeous. And House of Blues, we played like 4 or 5 House of Blues venues. And House of Blues has their like hosting and logistics so down well, with like available showers and like the food they give you after, and like the green room was always in a nice location in the spot that we can see stage or don't have to walk far. Like,
Nice.
so that was a really just like logistically satisfying venue, and just a dream one to play. And then probably the most life-changing ones were, so the first like month of the tour was on a bus all around. We had one in Toronto, I believe, and then the rest were all like in the States. And then we had like 2 or 3 weeks off, and then about a month in Asia. So it was like 10 shows in 30 days. And I got to see Tokyo, like, or Japan, Korea, China. It was incredible. And just the amount of like culture shock and
That's funny you
experience
say
and
that.
yeah, appreciation for like, oh my gosh, this whole side of the world is going on while our side's going on. And like, you just don't think about it that much. And then once you're there, it just is.
Yeah, so that brings me to my next question, and I have it on
Yeah.
my notes. I'll send you my notes, by the way, afterwards, so you can see
Love it.
how
Love it.
beautiful
I
we're
can tell you
segueing.
did so much research and prep on this.
So, where's the culture shock like? Traveling to the Eastern countries. How was that like for you?
Yeah, I noticed it, especially in Japan right away. Um, I guess to just describe a few things. Like the first thing I noticed when we get off the plane, how polite people were. I guess I'm kind of used to in America, like everyone like rushing off the plane, or like everyone's kind of tired and uncomfortable, like waiting for you to get off. In Japan, it just felt like people were so respectful and waited like your turn, like kindly. And then all the bows and like hands together. Um, when we get food, and they would hand us our receipt with 2 hands and like kind of nod down. Like it just felt so respectful. And another thing I got to see Shibuya Crossing. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's one of the busiest like intersections in the world. And there's like thousands of people moving like every stoplight. It's insane. There's so many people. It was like quiet, which felt so weird. Like I'm just so used to being loud and obnoxious, and there being honks and like I don't know,
Yeah.
anyone that's been to like New York or something, like just used to that kind of vibe. But man, it was just, there's something about the Japanese culture that I just fell in love with, of the respect for people, the kindness, the we're all on the same team. And I had seen some videos after of like just seeing people help clean up after a show. Like
Wow.
it just I don't know. I feel like I haven't seen that here. And it just made me self-reflect and think a lot about like, wow, these are like how do you change culture gradually? How did they get here? I like this.
Yeah,
Like
it's
the
centuries built on,
mhm.
I mean, they have hundreds and hundreds of years of just their culture set up like that.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I've been to China and just kind of seeing how, my experience from being, culture shock there. That's what I wanted to hear about your experiences.
Oh, totally.
It's
Yeah.
it's it's a totally different world than what we're used to over here.
Yep. I think it was good for me too to just be like, I'm a white male in America. Like,
Yeah.
I guess being the put in a minority position, like being in Asia, I can't speak the language everyone is speaking. Like, that was also really good, eye opening for me. Like, just actually experiencing what it's like more, and it just gives me more empathy in general for people and makes me want to like help and assist people that genuinely need help or communicating or whatever, or take that extra moment to help someone if they're lost or just stuff like that. Because we had, it's hard to like get around or even order food. And it's super anxious. Like we'd sometimes just be in our hotel rooms, like just like anxious and scared to go get food. So we get room service instead. Like just
Yeah.
from it's just being a lot when you're there, even 30 days was like a lot of, I don't know, shock, whatever to it's just weird thinking about
Yeah.
like being scared to have a social interaction because you don't know the language just to get food or water. Like that was a very new thing to me.
Wow.
And just gave me a lot of empathy for there's people here like that, wherever, like it's just a very common thing. So just giving empathy and patience to people that are in that position and kind of understanding where they're coming from too. And then I think a lot of it, my experience too, I was just like mind open to how beautiful their land is and like got to ride a bullet train. That was so
Yeah.
cool. Um, and the snacks and like rice, there was a gas station that had these like triangle rice snacks
Oh
that had
yeah.
like some kind of raw fish in it. And like it was a triangle, like kind of balled up rice. And that was like my favorite snack. I'm like, oh, I wish America had this so bad. Um, but just so many like little fun things like that made it just, I think it almost felt like the amount of learning felt like a college experience or like it was literally like a class, like the amount of learning you learn by just going to a new place like that. That's
That's
really far
awesome.
away. It gets you out of your echo chamber of thoughts and culture and assuming how things are, and just by seeing how other people do life.
It's an incredible experience for sure. Were there any tough moments on tour?
Yeah. This one's a total joke, but there was only warm water in a mall. We were trying to get, we were so thirsty and we wanted cold water, and that's like not a thing where we were in China. So I remember we got like McDonald's or something and with warm water, and it just felt that we were like, oh, I just want a cold drink right now. Um, but I would say the toughest moments were like there was a lot of solitude on the tour, and especially that the whole time in Asia, we all had our own rooms. So we were, um, I mean, it's kind of like bittersweet playing this crazy like energy output show and then like fun, everyone's interacting is very high social, like, oh, you get back to the
Yeah.
room and you're just like, oh.
Just kind of drained out. Yeah.
Yeah. But so many like short term relationships were built. Like you meet some really cool friends, but then you have to like go to the next city right away. So that was probably the hardest on me. And even like seeing family at different venues. Like I have so much extended family around the States and everything. Like being able to see them and then like have to leave right away, or like 10 p.m. is bus call or something. And then we're already on the road to the next place. So just meeting new friends and then having to leave right away or seeing family and having to leave right away. That was probably the hardest on me. And just feeling sometimes a little lonely, like getting back to, a room alone. And after this high energy, it just felt uh, like such high highs and low lows, right? Or there's just such different experiences, like going from so many people and so much energy to like so much isolation and silence. But that's a really recharging too, and I think kind of necessary to some point. But um, yeah, I mean, maybe some of the realities of touring that people don't think about, and you
Yeah.
can kind of structure it how you want. But that was an interesting part about it for sure.
Yeah. We have a lot of those experiences. We go out there, we play, big show. One of the ones that come to mind for me is, playing a show in Monterrey, Mexico. And it's a big old festival called Nortex. Um, and we go out there and there's about 40,000 people and just
I've
everything's
seen
just
the
so high
pictures.
energy. Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
It's so high energy and it's just so, everything's just structured. Because it's a festival. So you have to make sure that you're on time and doing all your stuff.
Oh yeah.
You pour out all this energy on stage and then you just kind of go backstage, get ready to go to the room. And it's just like I just ran a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
With us, we like to interact with each other right afterwards, whether through food or, some
Totally.
happy adult beverages. And, we just kind of,
Yep.
that's how we kind of wind down. And I know, it's kind of different for every other band, but, talking about those highs and lows, yeah, I completely understand. I kind of want to change the shift a little bit and let's talk about YouTube for a bit.
Yeah.
I think the first video I saw of you was the Fireflies compilation, and then Fiji Water. How has YouTube influenced your life as a musician and content creator?
Yeah. Well, I started the channel originally just trying to maximize my experience of playing at church. I kind of had the
Gotcha.
thought of, like I described earlier, as being a drummer in a supportive role. I wanted to but I am stuck with this entrepreneur mind where I want to
Yeah.
kind of own or like grow everything, whatever I'm doing. I want it to grow. And I'm like, there's some positions that are just like, you got to get creative on how you're going to grow it, or maybe it can be useful in growing something else. And that was one of the things I'd come up with of like, okay, as long as I'm there, I might as well record it, set up some GoPros and try to get the house mix if I can.
Yeah.
So it sounds clean and not like camera audio. Um, and started posting those. And sure enough, some got 20,000 views, 60,000 views. Like what? And I'd have like click on these too and stuff. But
Yeah.
I found other drummers would find them useful so I was just building my own kind of portfolio, not thinking a ton into it, but knowing that like these videos might be useful for someone learning the song, or just some people. I like cruising YouTube, just watching other videos of people playing and getting a feel for them and all that. So
Yeah.
that's how it started. And then as I got opportunities from posting those, like that led to these other band opportunities, including Owl City even being one of them. I was like, okay, I could lean into this a little more. And like, instead of just doing it because I'm already there, like making a video because I'm already there, what if I like actually put in the time and make a video is like exactly what I want it to be and like cool. And I pick the song, I pick all that stuff. So did that for a few drum covers, and sure enough, they did pretty well. And it was like, whoa, this is fun. Got some of the, social affirmation. And then realized I can't lean into that too much because sometimes you put your life work and you're so proud of a video and it does terrible
Yeah.
and no one sees it. But yeah, I kind of found my way to, after making a bunch of covers for Owl City, I got the light up drum kit, whatever, from Risen Drums, now Franklin Drum Company. It's the same thing. So I got in intention to use for Owl City, like for the first time. That was a custom kit like for that. And then once I had this light up kit and figured out how to automate all this, I'm like, ooh, I think light up drum covers would be a cool niche idea that I don't see anyone else doing.
Yeah.
And the other light up kits I've seen, I've never really admired the automation of the lights. Like they've always been kind of mediocre to me, like on or off, or maybe it strobes one point in a song, but that's it. And I've always wanted to see them like light up when you hit it. And like, so I made a ton of light up drum covers and just made videos that I was really proud of the music I enjoy to play, which was generally like, I love like really catchy, well-written pop. So I did a ton of covers like that and set some really high goals. Like a goal I set for myself was I'm going to have 50,000 subscribers in 1 year. And I wish if I could go back, that poor kid at me trying to like get so much I put on so much social pressure on myself on things that are somewhat out of my control. I would have put more emphasis on you do you make the best possible videos and the goal I had set too was one a week. So I wish I had focused more on that, like the controllables of what I can do and making like just the best possible products, making the best possible videos I can that I enjoy to watch. And I think I did a combination of that, but I did lean too hard on the social pressure, which then got me burnt out. Because I put a lot into these videos. It'd take me 6 to 10 hours because I'd program a full light show for it, like program every drum. It was all pre-programmed. And then like panels behind me, I painted, I soldered LED strip to it. Like, oh my gosh, it was so much work. And then I'd prepare these songs. I'd record cue tracks. So I wouldn't have to like be looking at a chart or anything like that. And that would make my prep time way faster by using cues because I'm playing to click anyway for the lights. And then I'd record it, I'd mix it, I'd master it, like all this stuff. So much, and then edit the video too. It's really so much dang work that went into it. So I just got burnt out and then had to like take a break. So YouTube for me has been that on and off experience of like balance and pressure on yourself. But man, has it led to a lot of fun, cool opportunities. And from there, it led to like a lot of brand deals and, getting some fun products and being able to collaborate with some cool companies. And it's still leading to gigs. Like those videos had led to a lot of drum recordings I've done, producers I've met, and gigs I'm doing now are like stemming from this YouTube channel. So once again, the resume thing, just leaning into that.
Well, I want to do something a little bit different now.
Yeah.
Because I have some more questions, but I think I'm going to save one for the end. I want to just kind of spit out some titles of songs, and I want to see if you can remember where they're from and give me a little bit more context.
Yep.
So the first one is I'll Fly Away. That's the title of the song. Do you remember that?
I'm thinking of I'll fly away on I'll fly away.
Do you remember
is that the right song?
I think so.
Okay.
I found it online and on YouTube. It was from NTU audio engineering class.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
think you did recorded drums for.
Oh, no way. Okay. I bet it was Rob Barrett. That would have been Rob Barrett. He was like my advisor through college.
Audio engineering 101.
Wow, I barely remember this. I'm kind of embarrassed. What about that would have been my freshman year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But he would just throw us in and get us like he'd find what skills the class had and try to like put everyone in so everyone could like contribute in their own way, he was awesome. Wow. Dang. Yeah, I do kind of remember that. That's probably on YouTube, I bet. Huh?
It's on YouTube, yeah.
Crazy. Okay.
Yeah. What about Highway Don't Care?
Okay, I remember that with my good friend Trevor and Hallie. So Trevor was in my first band ever, Tomorrow's Yesterday. And he had like all these production skills at like a 16 or like 17-year-old. Like he was like tuning vocals, producing, like mixing, and no one else my age was even close to like his production level or anything. And he was like editing videos and everything too. So he was so fun to hang out with. We still are in touch today. He's awesome. Yeah, that was super fun. And I remember I was playing acoustic, like a cajon, like on a cliff. Had this like super cool backdrop and playing a country song. That was fun.
What about Better Off This Way?
Oh, so this is my Taylor Marshall era. It's a Better
Yeah.
Office Way. I actually wrote with him, um, and we produced in my production room, and uh, that was kind of it. Ended up turning into the Better Off This Way tour. That was basically a tour of just Taylor and I. We had gotten really creative with um, how much we could both contribute. He plays almost every instrument, and
Wow.
we both produce. I had figured out the light automation, and he had a sound system, and we're like, if we combine forces here, we could literally like be a full band and like travel and like offer like audio, lights, like everything. We would just need to like have a sound guy. So we ended up doing that for like
Wow.
20, 30 shows. And talk about margin. The entrepreneur in me loved that model because it was super efficient. You're talking getting paid like a full band, but it's just two of us, but we're sounding and feeling like a full band because we've got a full automated light show that we spent like 40 hours programming. We've got like kick and sound system that he had invested in, and that was, and then the light up drums all automated to the show too. It was a really cool, unique thing we made. So that's what I think of with Better Off This Way.
Yeah. And Taylor Marshall, for the viewers out there, at the beginning of the show, I said I'm jumping in, and that brings me to jumping in with Taylor Marshall as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's such a good buddy of mine. He DJ'd my wedding. He's like an incredible, multi-talented dude. You got to check him out on Spotify, YouTube, all this stuff.
Yeah, I
He's
think I'll
awesome.
put up all those links down on in the description. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to spit out a couple of these titles and see if you remember them.
Yeah, that's awesome. The I'll
So
Fly Away one. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so. Now I remember. It was so long ago.
yeah, NCU Audio and Engineering Class 101.
Yeah,
That's where
crazy
I found it. When we're on the road, we like to pass time and we ask each other questions. It's being on the road with a band. It's like a family. There's a lot of bonding time.
for
You're
sure.
spending hours and days and months with this group of people. Our drummer and producer MD, and he does it all. His name is Lalo Reina. He usually drives the Sprinter for us, and I'm usually co-pilot. And we're driving overnight while everybody else is, is
Dang,
crashed out. We're driving
generous
overnight, yeah, and we have to keep things interesting. One of the questions we ask each other is about our island songs. If you were stuck on a deserted island and you had this, music player, MP3 player, whatever it may be, but it only had 5 songs on it, what would those 5 songs be for you?
soak up the sun, 100%. I absolutely that quite literally fits the island song, but that's also there's something about how that chorus hits that just
Yeah.
feels so good to me. Like when I hear that chorus, I'm just floating. Like I don't know what it is. There's something magical about that, the writing and melody in that song, like the harmonies. It just all feels so good to me. So that's for sure one of them. I've actually got a playlist that I'm putting together gradually called Feeling Good, and it's songs like this that I can't describe why, but they just feel so good to me. And a lot of them are older, more like timeless feeling songs, which I'm almost all the stuff I listen to usually is like modern and like new. But put your records on. That's another one. I girl, put your records on. I just love. There's something about that just makes me feel so good. It's just a fun vibe, and um, my wife teases me. I'm so bad at like remembering lyrics, and like I'm often humming the melodies of songs and
Yeah.
not the like
That's
messing
me.
up the lyrics. But I do think there's an maybe spoken value to just how a song can make you feel. Like I think it's okay for a song to just make you feel good, if even if the lyrics are kind of like whatever. Like those have been some of the most like, or a lot of songs have just spoken to me the most that I just listened to and they've brought me through a moment in life that was tough or something because they just feel good. But that would be another one. Um, there's a song by Chris August called Superhero. And it's the chorus is "You make me feel like a superhero," and it's just like this really Nashville organic, like just solid recordings. Like the musician in me just loves the song. It's just really well done. All the tones are incredible, and the songwriting in it. It's amazing. That'd probably be another one. I'll nail down two more here. Jacob Collier just came out with this song. I don't know if have you heard this? Mi Corazon.
Oh yes,
Oh
yes.
my gosh, the drop to it is absolutely,
That bass drop is just
yep,
money.
everything I want in the drop. Like
Money.
imperfect swing, like it's
Yes.
just so tasteful. So that one's on there for sure. Um, and then I would say do one more. Um, I'm thinking if I'm on an island and I'm burning up, what do I want to hear? I need a peaceful one. Um, which would probably be there's a John Mayer one. It's something submarine. Walt Grace's Submarine by John Mayer. It's just a super peaceful, kind of like down type song. The drums especially spoke to me because it's got this like it's almost like a melody on drums. It's da 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 da, and it just feels kind of like a train moving along. And I can just envision myself on an island, like I don't know, cutting off bark on trees, like building a shelter, like just kind of training, trucking along, like working and listening to that song. So it's a good like road trip type song. So
Awesome. Well, it's nice to hear Goose the Drummer's Island songs, and I'll try to see if I can put a playlist on that for.
yeah, Goose's Island songs.
So let's talk about the present time. I have a question to ask you. Is it
Yes.
pronounced realtor or realtor?
Realtor. So many people get this mixed up. Realtor. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, after getting my real estate license, like it turns out it's this like they have a copyright on the term realtor, and they really emphasize and want the public to get that right. So I thought that I made up some funny videos about that,
Yeah.
and it's a funny like general misconception, similar to Aldi's. How like
Yes.
I feel like so much of the older generation calls it Aldi's. Let's go to Aldi's, but it's technically Aldi. Whatever. Fun to poke fun with it.
So talk about the realtor journey. Now you're into real estate.
Yep.
So let's talk about that just briefly.
Yeah, I am incredibly passionate about I would say financial stewardship, like treating money as if it's not your own, as if you've been blessed with it, and if someone's trusting you with it, I feel like is the wisest way to treat your money. So that going through that filter changes, I think, how a lot of people would approach their spending. And it's changed my life on many regards of just it's always come naturally to me of like living frugal. I attribute a lot of it to my grandparents, to my parents, and the culture they'd kind of just set growing up and how they spend. But frugality, and also, but not being afraid to spend on what you value, because there's totally things that are worth spending on. It's not like spending is bad, but I guess that's the core of what got me into real estate. And then I had bought a home basically with the Owl City tour money. I dumped it into a home. I rented to three buddies in the house as I was living there too. And I was able to give them a really good deal while still covering like my own expenses. And that ended up being one of the best actually not one of the best, the best financial decision I've ever made. And that really springboarded me into being able to buy another for my wife and I, and like just how that affected my life, and how the realtors that worked with me and helped me accomplish that broke all the stereotypes that I'd thought about realtors, that they're money hungry, that they're just like trying to get a deal or whatever. They had my best interest in mind. And some I even had to, like one, I had to break the news to him that, hey, sorry, I'm actually getting my license now, so I don't need you anymore. Like it was an awkward thing, and they totally understood and were actually happy for me and like praising me, welcome to the industry. That's like so glad that like you see a passion in this like I do, kind of thing. So that was a big part of just growing the passion for me. And then the fact that I can help others now do that and become like have a taste of home ownership, of financial stewardship, of being smart and intentional with your money, because it affects so many people around you, your family, your kids, your future kids. Like it really, being in a healthy spot also enables you for generosity. And I love that stuff. I love geeking numbers. I love being able to show someone that a small adjustment can make such a big impact. So that's kind of the root of it, is just like sharing, I guess, some of the good experiences that I've have like really grown this passion for it. And the more real estate type stuff I do, the more fun I'm having. And I had this big identity crisis when I was getting into it, of like, oh no, does this mean I'm not a drummer? Am I doing plan B instead of plan A? But I've totally let that go. Forget about that. Like, I'm passionate about both. I'll do both,
Yeah. It's awesome.
and that's okay. Like, I don't need to even think or worry what people are going to think. Like, I can just, do and enjoy both. And I am. So
That's incredible.
that's been really releasing, to just like let go of, am I Goose the realtor? Am I Goose the drummer? Am I Matt? Am I like, all these identity things? And it's like, just releasing that's been, that's probably been this past year of like mentally being okay with doing something else besides music as well, is totally okay. And
That's
it's
awesome.
not, yeah, I don't have to feel like it's a cop out or plan B or anything. I just am passionate about it and I want to do it, and I'm loving it. So
I
yeah,
love it. Yeah. I'll post some videos too, some links to your realty videos.
awesome.
And so what other plans do you have right now?
Yeah. So I'm in a current renovation right now. So that's a big part of my life. Like, I bought a house that needs far more work than I know how or can do. It's been a journey, and living in a house while working on it is its own struggle in itself. So I've been, learning how to put in flooring and put in a vanity with my dad. We like replaced the like guts of a toilet. Like, I'm getting my hands dirty, like learning so much hands-on skills. That's fun. I like to be able to, I guess, like lean into those skills after a day's work. I like to be able to just work whenever I want to, kind of thing. So I've been doing a lot of that. Been doing post-production, mixing and mastering, and the video courses, like offering support for those, and been doing some drum recording. I just had a gig this couple weeks ago, and doing like some video shoot stuff for a new up and coming artist named Ben Howe, like locally here. So it's been really fun just having this mixed life. I've got an inspection I'm attending for a buyer for real estate like tonight. It's just all sorts of different passions I get to lean into and jump into. That I like my life being a little uncomfortable and unpredictable, but being flexible. So
Yeah, it makes things interesting.
I'm scattered and I love it.
So let's now it's time for plugs. Where can people find you?
I'm blessed to have a unique username. So it's the same on everything. Goose the Drummer. It's goosethedrummer.com, like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. It's all just Goose the Drummer. And then my realtor stuff is just my name, Matt Gusmer. So you can find me on YouTube or TikTok there. So
Awesome. Well, man, we can go on. I believe we can go on,
oh yeah,
for hours talking about everything. And I've had a lot of fun. But I don't know if there's any, closing statements or remarks that you want to make for anybody, or
yeah. If I could land one thing with you, I'd say, work hard, pursue your passions. Don't be afraid. Have courage to go for it. I think we all have stuff that we want to do that we're afraid to do. And real estate was one of those things for me. And I'm really glad I dove into it. And making videos, making covers was that for me. It's so vulnerable to post anything of yourself because people have their thoughts and criticisms and whatever. But it's freeing and releasing to let that go, and have the courage to just go for it. So that's the theme in my life right now, to just go for it, be courageous, and have integrity, work hard at what you do.
Awesome. Well, everybody, Mr. Goose the Drummer, It was a pleasure to have you. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll stop the recording, and then we'll just kind of have a conversation afterwards.
Awesome. Perfect.
Awesome.